while we remain linked to our ancestors through history, theology, customs, rituals, and law, the organization of Judaism today bears little resemblance to that of biblical times. Starting out as nomadic tribes in the time of Abraham, we began to become organized after 400 years of slavery under the Egyptians, when Moses took us through a 40-year exodus, during which time those whose sensibilities had been too ingrained in slave mentality died out, but a sense of peoplehood arose. The tribes became organized around the tabernacle, received the Torah, and became cognizant of laws as to how to interact human to human and human to God. Upon settling in the Promised Land, our patriarchal forebears became an agrarian society. Their physical needs were handled by prophets, judges, and kings, and spiritual needs by the Kohanim, the priests, through observation of Shabbat, Kashrut, 3 ritual sacrifices daily performed by the priests at the temple in Jerusalem, and pilgrimages to Jerusalem 3 times a year. With repeated exiles of segments of the society and the ultimate destruction of the temple in 70 of the Common Era, Judaism could no longer be temple-centered, and we began to change how we practiced Judaism and how we organized ourselves as a society. We began to meet in smaller groups to develop ways of integrating what the Torah taught into practical application in the changing world, and to expand upon the written laws through oral Torah. The influence of teachers called rabbis became stronger, and the development of the Talmud and subsequent writings was spread throughout the society. And the sacrifices that had been brought to the temple were replaced with communal prayer and individual prayer. Of necessity, the religion shifted to becoming a portable one. As Jews were dispersed throughout the diaspora, an exile that lasted nearly 2,000 years, we shifted from a settled agrarian society to being more involved in portable skills, such as becoming physicians or merchants or traders, etc. In each place where we settled, we carried with us our laws and traditions, and we adapted. We would first consecrate land for proper Jewish burial rites, a tradition that continues. The Chevra Kadisha was established. It was a group of volunteers who sensitively and reverently prepared the bodies for burial, and that continues. Schools would be established to educate our young people. Benevolent aid societies were established to care for the indigent and provide for widows and orphans. Yeshivas were established for advanced training in the time-honored transmission of our history, liturgy, customs, and ceremonies. That was always an integral and integrated part of our culture. Hebrew and Aramaic might be supplanted or blended with the language of whatever country we were in, but the holy language of Hebrew, the language of the Tanakh, the Bible, was taught from generation to generation, eventually becoming once again the national language with the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Study, reading, and prolific writing were always a part of the culture as well, and helped sustain Judaism in the diaspora throughout the centuries. In the Middle Ages, there was a concerted effort to demonstrate the essential compatibility of Judaism with the rational concepts of the universe. And by the 19th century, traditional Judaism had been influenced by political upheavals, anti-Semitic pogroms, and enlightenment in Western Europe. And new movements arose within Judaism, including the new pietism called Hasidism, that downplayed scholarly Judaism and emphasized serving God with joy. Schisms and compromises began to change the way Judaism was practiced, and by the mid-20th century, Reform Judaism, Conservative Judaism, and Reconstructionist Judaism joined Orthodox Judaism as denominations within the rubric of Judaism, with many shades of practice within each. Since the 1960s, a movement called Renewal Judaism has been a subtle influence within all the denominations, integrating some of the basics of Hasidism along with constant awareness of increasing the relevancy of the faith in answer to and anticipation of the needs of society. Now, in the third quarter of the 20th century, women were permitted to study for and become ordained in all the denominations except Orthodoxy. Although even within the most traditional aspect of modern Jewish life, women have gained access to higher forms of education, and increasingly taken more and more participatory aspects of leadership, including private ordination of a handful of Orthodox women. The roles of rabbis in general have changed over the years as well. While originally teachers and poskim, that is, those who interpreted the laws, the job description now has rabbis as liturgical and worship specialists, spiritual leaders, pastoral counselors, life cycle facilitators, and educators, with all too many thrust into quasi-CEO positions, responsibilities for which few are prepared nor desirous of. Although the biblical concept of tithing has not always been achieved, the acts of tzedakah, which really means righteousness, and gemilut chasadim, which means acts of loving kindness, have always been the underpinnings of self-sustaining communal support. Nowadays, our religious and societal needs are met by institutions of synagogues, Jewish federations, Jewish family service agencies, Jewish educational institutions, Jewish community centers, and a multitude of Jewish benevolent societies. Our leadership is an informal consortium of rabbinical presence and communal institutional leaders. Education of children is handled through day schools and after-school or Sunday educational programs. Family education and adult education continue to be shared by synagogues and the Jewish community centers. The horrors of the Holocaust and World War II, juxtaposed to the joy of reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948, influenced world Jewry profoundly and continue to do so. Societal changes are being addressed by rabbinical and lay Jewish ethicists to help us seek our best selves in an increasingly changing and challenging world. Now, I could have spared the whole 6 minutes by answering as Hillel did when asked, "Tell me everything about Judaism while standing on one leg," which is simply to say, do not do unto another what you would not have done unto them. The rest is study. Go and study.